by a military dictator. And prior to Sisi, we know as far as Mohammed Morsi was concerned, Turkey was one of the countries that came out very, very strong when Mohammed Morsi was overthrown by the coup as well. Now, just looking at the latest developments, what are the possibilities against the background that I've just mentioned of Turkey and Egypt enjoying a healthy relationship?
Okay. I think, as you said, yes. After the Sisi regime overthrew the Mohamed Morsi, Turkey took a very strong position against the current Egypt government, and they have condemned specifically Sisi personally in terms of the coup that he has done, and in terms of the way he is running his country. Now, the relations has been sour since then, and the diplomatic relations have been downgraded, and I think trade also have been affected to a large extent. So the two countries have had very little interaction. But we've now witnessed a few days ago, the Turkish foreign minister made a declaration, and he said there is a possibility of starting to repair the ties between the two countries. Now, this was a bit of a, it was expected, but it seems that the proposal or the initiative to repair ties was initiated by, or was more pursued by Turkish side. The Turkish minister, when he made the announcement, he said that Egypt or Turkey did not really have preconditions. But then Egypt came out and said, no, they would like to see Turkey sort of proving that they are sincere, so they would like them to take certain concrete steps, etc. So it's a bit unclear how it's going to go. Probably there will be some improvement, but it's difficult to say to what extent and how much they can actually repay those ties, because a lot of damage has been done. Yes, Turkey has taken a stance basing that stance on the fact that Sisi government is basically one which has conducted a coup against an elected government, and none of those conditions have changed. So I'm not sure now how they will get around some of those conditions, because the Sisi government is still very much there, and Turkey seems to still have some relationship with the Muslim Brotherhood. And one of the big conditions that will actually be on the table, I think, that Turkey puts some kind of a distance between themselves and the Muslim Brotherhood. And because Egypt is saying that there will never be a normalization for the conditions of the members of the Brotherhood. So that seems to be a bit of a difficult condition to get around. But apart from that, obviously there are other factors, but I'm assuming that this is the biggest one. When Turkey's efforts in Africa in general, where they are asserting themselves more strongly in many parts of Africa, Egypt is probably seeing that as a threat in a sense, or that Turkey is now more present in Africa. But we will have to wait a little bit more, I think, to see if the sides are willing to take any concrete steps.
Yes. Now, obviously, I think one of the key issues is geopolitics that are playing out in the region. And, with, as you mentioned, Egypt raising these conditions in terms of establishing these relationships. And one cannot forget what had happened with Qatar as well, and the Egyptian support for countries like Saudi Arabia and the Gulf countries that obviously went against Qatar, and Turkey obviously supporting Qatar on the other side as well. So these are some of the geopolitical issues that are obviously going to be playing out, and that will feature very, very strongly. But again, I think the key issue here is the Turkish influence. The Turkish influence in many countries, and particularly looking at Africa, looking at even Libya at this point in time, Turkey and its involvement in Libya as well. So these are important factors that one needs to take into account, Dr. Inal.
Absolutely. And it's also noteworthy to mention that Turkish foreign minister made this statement on his back from Qatar when they had a meeting with the ministers of Qatar and Russia, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of seeking a solution in Syria. So it seems that there is a pressure on Turkey, and I think we must also remember that Turkey has been moving towards a greater isolation in the region. I mean, they have obviously Greece is on the one side. They've always had issues with Greece. Now Egypt has been sour for a long time, and Syria the same. And these relationships, and most of them are affected by Turkey's involvement in the region, and in many times militarily. When Turkey is militarily involved in Syria, in Iraq, in Libya, obviously, and on Libya, Egypt and Turkey are on the different sides, and that's also one of the major issues that they will have to deal with, and it involves other parties. It's not a matter which the two countries can actually sit down and resolve between the two of them. So yes, geopolitics is very important, and I think one of the reasons why Turkey is actually wants to initiate this is the same reason. Probably they've realized that yes, they've been taking one can call it a principled stance against most issues, but it's viewed more ideological, because Turkey's current government is pursuing or is adopting. They subscribe to a certain ideology, and the foreign policy of the country has been very much dominated by their thinking, their ideology, their political ideology, and therefore they've been having problems, I think, when making sort of concessions when it comes to relating to other countries. So that is probably one of the reasons, and as I mentioned earlier, the support for the Muslim Brotherhood is based very much in that kind of philosophical and paradigmatic approach. So, yeah.
What about the economic interests when one looks at both Turkey and Egypt, Professor Inal?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. The economy plays a big role. I think both countries are facing serious economic issues. Their trade have been affected, and Turkey, especially given the current Turkish economic situation, I think Turkey needs new markets. Turkey needs new partners, because there is really a struggle there to bring the economy up again. At some stage, the economy was doing really well, but because of the pandemic, because of other conditions that are affecting the trade between countries, Turkey has been the isolation of Turkey in terms of some of the neighbors have actually had very serious economic repercussions. For example, with Syria, there was almost like no border where they were trading between the two countries very freely. But once after the so-called Arab Spring started, the whole thing collapsed, because Turkey decided to benefit from what's happening in the region by siding with some of the forces which were driving the Arab Spring revolts, and specifically in Syria. They've supported the opposition, hoping that the opposition will succeed and they will have better relations. But then it ended up losing the relations that they already existed. And the economy is very important. There was a big amount of trade happening between Turkey and Syria. Same thing in Libya after the war. Turkey lost a lot of economic interests. With Egypt, obviously the same thing. So probably it's driven by an interest in developing some kind of an economic relations as well, which is mentioned by the Turkish president as well. I think the two things, the intelligence and the economy, was mentioned by them.
Well, Professor Inal, let's see what developed and how the situation developed, and this relationship, whether it's going to be reality at some point in time. But for now, we thank you. We say Jazakallah to you for your time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam.